One of the little stories I tell is that as we were traveling across North Africa and Algeria, people would say, "Where are you going? What are you asking?" I said, "We're going to cross the Sahara Desert and go into Africa." And these were Bedouins and Tuaregs. These were desert people. And they said, "Oh, you can't do that. You'll die in the desert." And I said, No. I learned French so I could travel, Vous allez mourir dans le bus. Vous allez mourir dans le bus. And I said, well, wait a minute. I had to look at my dictionary. What is vous allez? It means you will die in the desert.
Oh, no.
And I said, no, we're not going to die in the desert. They said, oh, yes. Everybody dies in the desert if they don't go with a convoy. And I said, well, that can't be true. I mean, for us, we were just optimistic kids, North American kids. So we just whip across the yellow part. And we started off and the vehicle broke down and everything broke down and we lost all our money. And finally, we got to the edge of the desert and it was called the Sahara Escarpment. And this high place, and you look out and you can see 100 miles, and the desert was so huge. Now we realized why they said we were going to die in the desert. It was enormous, but by this time our vehicle was ready. We had broken down, and we realized in retrospect that if the vehicle hadn't broken down, we would have died in the desert. So we crossed and we met some Germans, 4 Germans. They were crossing in a Volksbus, and we decided we'd cross together. And so we went parallel across the desert, and their vehicle broke down over and over again, and we sort of finally towed them the last part of the desert, and we got to the far side, 500 miles of flat desert. We got to a border post on the far side, and where we left our German friends. And I went back to Germany later in years and met with them and traveled with them again. But anyway, that was the starting point. And what I realized is that I gave a seminar on this. I was asked by the $1 Million Roundtable to do a talk, and so I'll do a talk about crossing the desert because that's what they wanted, motivational, upbeat, everything. Right. As I wrote the talk, I got deeper and deeper into it, and then I went down, I sat in front of a panel, and I gave the talk, and they sat there silently, and they said, "Could you leave the room, please, while we discuss your talk?" So I left the room, and I came back half an hour later. They said, "We'll take it." I designed the talk around 7 key principles, and I gave it to 5,000 people in Montreal at the annual meeting of the $1 Million Roundtable, and it got a standing ovation. It was recorded audio and video. It was distributed all over the world, and I only gave that talk once. I rehearsed it 50 times. I walked back and forth, and I gave it exactly word for word. They said, "You must not deviate from the version that we have approved." And so I said, okay. And so I gave that talk, and it had 7 rules for life. And one of them was that when you start off anything new or different, people will tell you, you can't do it. You won't be successful. You'll lose all your time. You'll lose all your money. You will, in effect, die in the desert. And I said, you have to overcome negative people. All your life to be successful, you must overcome negative people, and you must press on, and you must keep going, and you must decide in advance that you will never give up. You'll never quit. And so that was the crossing of the desert.